When Hollywood's most intense actor clashed with late night's snarkiest host, the result wasn't just awkward. It was explosive. From the moment Sean Penn took his seat on Jimmy Kimmel Live, there was an unmistakable tension in the air. What started as a seemingly routine interview quickly spiraled into an on-air confrontation that left the audience stunned and the cameras rolling on something far more raw than anyone expected. So, Sean, you're here to talk about your documentary work, Kimmel began with a smirk. But tell me, do you ever get tired of being this serious all the time? When was the last time you actually had fun? Penn shifted in his seat. His jaw tightened. Fun's subjective, Jimmy, he said. I find meaning in my work. Some people find meaning making jokes at the expense of others' convictions. It was the kind of retort that sucked the laughter out of the room. Kimmel tried to chuckle it off. Hey, just asking what people are curious about. You've got a rep, man. Walking off sets, confrontations with photographers. Some say you're difficult. Penn's expression darkened. Difficult, he repeated, his voice low and gravelly. That's rich, coming from a guy whose idea of journalism is giggling through cue cards. The audience froze. The smile on Kimmel's face wavered. Look, this is late night, Kimmel shot back. We don't take ourselves too seriously. Exactly, Penn replied coldly. You don't take anything seriously. Not war, not suffering, not truth. You turn a tragedy into punchlines and call it entertainment. Now Kimmel's voice sharpened. Wow, so comedy's worthless now. Should we all just sit around brooding like you? Penn leaned forward, voice rising. Intense? You want intense? Try standing in a war zone while kids cry over dead parents. Meanwhile, you mock that from a desk. Kimmel, flustered now, retorted. People like me connect with audiences. People like you lecture them. People like you hide behind humor, Penn growled. You invited me here to discuss humanitarian work, and instead you ambushed me for ratings. Is that what this is? A cheap stunt to fill airtime? Gasps rippled through the audience. Kimmel's composure cracked. At least I don't scream at photographers and throw punches, he snapped. You think that's noble? I think what you do, Penn said, his voice full of contempt, is worse. You exploit pain for laughs and call yourself a host. Kimmel gestured at Penn, dismissively. This act, angry, bitter, holier than thou. It's tired. When's the last time anyone wanted to work with you? Penn stood abruptly, looming over the desk. You want to talk about acts? Your entire career is an act. This show, this faux concern in your monologues, your phony outrage, it's all a mask. You're a fraud, and everyone in this room knows it. Kimmel shot up from his chair, the curtain fully pulled back. A fraud? He barked. You think making a few documentaries makes you a saint. You're just a washed-up actor. No one listens to anymore. Penn's voice dropped to a deadly calm. Is that why you booked me? Because no one cares? Or because you needed someone with actual substance to distract from the fact this show's become a graveyard of clickbait and canned laughter? Silence. The crew stood still. Cameras kept rolling. Kimmel, red-faced, finally snapped. You know what, Sean? Maybe this interview's over. Maybe you should find a show that appreciates your righteous rants. Penn scanned the studio. Audience frozen. Crew wide-eyed. Gladly, he said. And with that, Sean Penn walked off the Jimmy Kimmel Live set, escorted by security, leaving behind a stunned studio and a scorched late-night stage. But before Sean Penn made his dramatic exit, he turned to the camera. Let me say something to your viewers, he said, ignoring Jimmy Kimmel's frantic gestures to cut away. This is what passes for discourse in America today. A stage where cheap jokes matter more than real conversation. Where performance replaces truth. Kimmel's face tightened as he motioned to his director. Cut to break! He barked. But Penn kept speaking. You invited me here under false pretenses, Jimmy, Penn said, locking eyes with the camera. You promised a discussion about meaningful work. Instead, you used it as a springboard for a personal attack, and that says everything about your character. The studio was silent except for the quiet rustle of movement from behind the cameras. Kimmel was visibly losing control of the room, and his own show. He stepped out from behind his desk. You don't get to hijack my show, he snapped. This is my stage, my audience, my rules. Penn didn't move an inch. Your rules were to have an honest conversation, he said. Apparently, your rules also include lying to guests and ambushing them for clicks. Kimmel's voice cracked slightly. This show has won Emmys. It's raised millions for charity. What have you done lately besides lecture everyone and act like you're the only one who gives a damn? Penn stared at him, incredulous. What have I done? He repeated. I've spent the last 2 years documenting war crimes. I've been in trenches, hospitals, refugee camps, witnessing real suffering while you sit here joking about celebrity tweets. The audience was frozen, some squirming, others riveted. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was something far more raw. Kimmel tried to soften. He forced a plastic smile back onto his face. Look, Sean, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. Let's sit down, start over. Talk about your documentary, like you wanted. But Penn didn't budge. Now you want to talk about the work? After 10 minutes of trying to tear me down on national television, after showing your audience who you really are when the script runs out? Kimmel's grin vanished. Who I really am, he snapped. I'm someone who can laugh at himself, who doesn't take everything so seriously. I'm not the one who walks around acting like a martyr. No, Penn shot back. You're the guy who built a career mocking everyone else. Politicians, activists, celebrities, anyone who gives a damn about more than what's trending. You treat it all like a joke because you're too afraid to take a stand on anything real. Kimmel's hands trembled. Whether from nerves or rage, it wasn't clear. That's rich coming from someone who's made anger his brand. You want to know what I really think, Sean? I think you're jealous. Jealous that some of us can actually enjoy life. Penn let out a cold laugh. You call this joy? This stage drama? This desperate stunt to go viral at my expense? You think that's real? What's real? Kimmel snapped back. Is making people laugh when they're hurting, giving them a break from the chaos. That's what brings me joy. Not standing on a soapbox telling people they're not enlightened enough to be you. Penn stared at him, unmoved. If joy for you means humiliating people for ratings, he said quietly, then maybe you're not the host you think you are. Maybe you're just another entertainer pretending to be relevant. The studio was deathly still. The audience, unsure whether to applaud or look away, remained frozen as the camera kept rolling on the wreckage. And then, without waiting for permission, Sean Penn turned and walked off the set. History would remember the interview, but not for the reasons Jimmy Kimmel intended. You keep using that word like it's an insult, Penn said sharply, like caring about other human beings is somehow pretentious. Kimmel leaned forward, exasperated. It's not the caring, Sean. It's the way you perform it, like You're the only person in this industry who's ever given a damn." Penn stepped forward slowly, his voice dropping to a whisper that carried more weight than shouting. "You want to know what's real, Jimmy," he said, his tone razor-sharp. "Real is you booking me tonight because you thought you could knock me down a peg. Real is your ratings slipping, and you needing someone, to spark a little outrage. Real is using my humanitarian work as a backdrop for your little morality play." Kimmel's composure cracked. "My ratings are just fine," he snapped. "And you know what else is real? The fact that no one wants to hear your sanctimonious rants anymore. You're a washed-up actor who thinks making a few documentaries gives him moral authority over the rest of us." Penn's eyes narrowed. "A washed-up actor?" he repeated coldly. "If I'm such a has-been, Jimmy, why am I here? Why did your team call my publicist every day for 3 weeks to get me on this show?" Kimmel laughed bitterly. "We didn't beg for anything. You needed this platform more than we needed you." "Is that what you tell yourself?" Penn asked, voice icy. "Is that how you sleep at night? Pretending I need this more than you do?" In the audience, whispers turned to a low hum. Some reached for their phones, sensing this wasn't just another segment. This was about to become a historic television moment. Kimmel noticed the glow of cameras and snapped. "Put the phones away. This is a closed set." Penn's voice rose, with fire. "No, leave them out. Let people see this. Let them see what happens when someone challenges the great Jimmy Kimmel on his own turf. Let them see how you really handle honesty." Kimmel spun back toward him, furious. "You think this is a game? You came out here swinging from the first question. Don't lecture me on integrity." "I'm not playing games," Penn replied. "I just don't fake civility when I know I'm being used. I'm not too good for late-night TV, Jimmy. I'm just too honest for the kind of stage dishonesty you traffic in." "Dishonesty?" Kimmel shot back. "Everything I do is on camera. My jokes, my opinions. It's all out in the open. I'm not hiding behind some fake humanitarian image." Penn's voice finally cracked with real fury. "You think it's fake? The refugee camps? The war zones? The lives we've tried to save? You think I'm doing this for optics?" Kimmel flinched, but didn't back down. "I think you use it to feel superior, to justify treating people like garbage when they don't meet your impossible moral bar." Penn stared him down. "Impossible standards like what? Honesty? Integrity? Not ambushing your guests for a viral clip?" The audience was completely still, the tension thick as smoke. Now face to face across the desk, the moment felt combustible. 2 worlds colliding, and one of them was about to be swallowed whole. Kimmel made one last grasp for control. "You know what, Sean? I've had enough. You've been hostile since you walked on stage. You've insulted me, my show, and my audience. And now you're trying to flip the narrative and make me the villain." Sen's laugh was hollow, bitter. "I don't need to make you anything, Jimmy. You're doing that just fine on your own. Every word out of your mouth shows the world exactly who you are." Kimmel's voice shook with frustration. "Who I am? I'm someone who built a career entertaining people. Someone who brings them a little joy in a miserable world. What about you? What do you actually contribute besides endless criticism?" Penn's voice softened, but only to sharpen the blade. "I document truth. I show people realities they'd never see otherwise. I use my platform to lift voices that are ignored and erased. And what do you use yours for?" Kimmel didn't blink. "I make people laugh. I give them a break. That matters, Sean." Penn stared at him. "Does it? Or does it just help them forget the problems they don't want to fix? Another long silence, and then, somewhere in the back of the audience, a phone dropped, a muffled clang. That's how quiet it had become. It was no longer a late-night interview. It was a reckoning. Penn stepped forward, voice low and sharp. "You're not helping people forget their problems, Jimmy. You're helping them stay numb while the world burns around them." Kimmel's face flushed deep red, veins rising on his forehead. "Not everything has to be doom and gloom, Sean. Not everything is some damn crusade. Sometimes people just want to laugh. They want to enjoy something without getting a lecture about how broken the world is." Penn didn't flinch. And that's exactly the problem. People prefer to be entertained instead of informed. They'd rather laugh than think. They want comfort instead of challenge. And you, he pointed a finger toward Kimmel's desk, you feed them exactly what they crave. You keep them sedated. Kimmel fired back, voice rising. "Damn right I do. That's what entertainment is for. It's meant to make people feel good, not guilty for existing." Penn shook his head slowly, eyes hard. "You really don't get it. You have millions watching every night. They absorb your jokes, your tone, your framing. They laugh where you laugh. You shape how they see the world. And you treat that power like it's a toy." Kimmel jabbed a finger back. "And I'm honest about it. I make fun of politicians, celebrities, the news. That's honesty too." Penn's expression turned incredulous. "Honesty? You reduce real issues to one-liners. You turn human suffering into punchlines. You wrap global crises in applause signs and commercial breaks. That's not honesty, Jimmy. That's sanitization." "Hijack?" Penn scoffed, shaking his head. "I answered every single one of your questions, Jimmy. The problem isn't that I hijacked your show. It's that you didn't like the answers. You wanted me to play along with your little late-night ritual. Smile, laugh at your jokes, plug my project, go home. That's not who I am." Two security guards edged toward the stage, visibly unsure of what they were supposed to do. This wasn't some unruly audience member or a scripted skit. It was uncharted territory, and no one had trained them for this. Penn turned to the audience, his voice calm but firm. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you've just witnessed is something rare on television. Reality, not the scripted, sanitized version. But what happens when someone refuses to play the game? When someone demands a real conversation instead of reading from a teleprompter?" Kimmel's voice came out in a thin, tight whisper. "Get him out of here." Penn looked back at him one last time, eyes steady. "You know what the saddest part is, Jimmy. You had a chance tonight. A real chance. A guest willing to talk about serious issues. About war, about corruption, about actual solutions. But you turned it into a circus." Kimmel tried to rally, his voice brittle. "I chose to do my job." "No," Penn said, as the guards flanked him. "You chose what was easy, not what was right. There's a difference." He began to walk off stage, then stopped and turned back to face the camera. His final words rang out into a studio now dead silent. "To everyone watching at home, remember this moment. This is what happens when entertainment becomes more important than truth, when comfort matters more than growth, when we'd rather laugh at problems than solve them." Security led him away. The audience sat frozen. Some stared. Others glanced at each other, unsure whether to applaud, boo, or just breathe. Behind his desk, Jimmy Kimmel stood pale and trembling. His hands clenched the edge of the desk like a man trying to hold on to the last scrap of control. The cameras kept rolling. every second of his unraveling was being broadcast, live and unfiltered. After what felt like an eternity, Kimmel leaned toward the mic and mumbled, "We'll be right back after these messages." The show cut to commercial, but the damage was done. In under 20 minutes, Sean Penn had dismantled Jimmy Kimmel's carefully maintained television persona, exposing the hollow cynicism underneath. The confrontation would be dissected for weeks, not just for what it revealed about Kimmel, but what it exposed about late-night television itself. A format built on illusion had just been ripped wide open by someone who refused to play, pretend. What Kimmel thought would be a clever ambush had become something else entirely. A reckoning. Penn walked into a trap and turned it into an indictment of modern celebrity culture. The interview meant to make him look combative and unstable had done the opposite, and everyone in that studio knew. They had just witnessed television history. What do you think? Was Sean Penn right to confront Kimmel the way he did? Or did he go too far in his takedown of late night's manufactured comfort zone? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more moments where Hollywood's carefully constructed facades come crashing down.